guys, it's Jane. I'm here today to do the Valentine's Day book tag. This was a brand new tag that Jo Reads Books just made up, and she tagged 1 million people, including me. So let's give this a try. Now, before we begin, I need to say I'm actually not a big Valentine's Day person. Like, I never have been, and I'm still not now. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, the most pressing holiday on the horizon is Pancake Day next Tuesday, which I'm planning the menu for, and I'm also preparing myself mentally for Lent, which starts immediately after that. And just so that you know, I have committed this year to give up staying up past midnight and complaining for Lent. They're the two things that I'm giving up for Lent. So let's see how far we can get with those. Hey. But I'm not going to be a Scrooge about it. So here we go, the Valentine's Day book tag. And because I don't read much in the way of romance fiction, this is going to be the all Jane Austen Valentine's Day book tag. First question. Your favourite couple ever? And for me, that is Anne Elliot and Captain Wentworth from Persuasion. Anne Elliot is an older, wan-looking, past her prime girl who has not very much to recommend her at the point when the story happens. Captain Wentworth was once madly in love with her, but, you know, she turned him down, and now he has all the money and all the cards, but it turns out he's actually still in love with her too, and it's a beautiful story. The second question, relationship that never happened. You wanted them to get together, but they never did. And for me, this is Mary and Mr. Collins. That's right, Mary Bennet and Mr. Collins. I could never work out why Mr. Collins didn't go for Mary. She was at least interested in talking to him, and yeah, like seriously, he thought he was above her. I don't understand it. I thought that would have been perfect for each other. And plus, then the estate would not have been entailed away from the family, so yay for that. The third question is your crush. Any character. Now, of course, you have to say Mr. Darcy because it's Mr. Darcy. All the girls know it's Mr. Darcy. It's Mr. Darcy, right? But for me, it's actually a tie. It's a tie between Mr. Darcy and Mr. Knightley. Yeah, I've got a big squidgy soft spot for Mr. Knightley. Yeah, and I'm glad Emma finally got her shit together so that she was worth marrying. Okay, number 4, worst relationship. A couple you wanted to break up, and that is Mr. and Mrs. Elton out of Emma. Yeah, Mr. Elton and Mrs. Elton. Well, they kind of deserved each other, but I just wish they would go away. Number 5, your favourite love triangle. Okay, so that is Eleanor from Sense and Sensibility and Edward Ferrars and Lucy Steele. For those of you who don't know the story of Sense and Sensibility, there's lots of other things going on in the story, but for this one storyline, Eleanor meets and falls in love with Edward, and they're both quiet, kind of unassuming people, but nice. But it doesn't happen, and Eleanor doesn't really understand why. Because everybody could see that Edward is sweet on her, but nothing comes of it. And then it turns out that Edward is actually already engaged, and he's engaged to this chick called Lucy Steele, who is awful. And you know, the fact that he, you know, formed an attachment to her in the first place does not recommend Edward. But, you know, he was young. That's the thing. He had been young. But now he's being a man of his word. And so he can't, you know, push through with Eleanor because he's already committed to Lucy Steele. And Lucy Steele is awful. And the reason this is my favourite love triangle is that it actually finally works out for the best. So that's a good one. Okay, the final question is your favourite tragic love story, and this is Colonel Brandon's love story with the unnamed woman who was his father's ward. I can't spoil this one because this is all backstory as far as Sense and Sensibility is concerned, because this happened in the past. As a young man, Colonel Brandon fell in love with a woman who was his father's ward, but they were not allowed to marry because Colonel Brandon's father had decided that she should marry Colonel Brandon's older brother. And so they were separated, and he went away with the army and came back to find all these terrible, terrible things that had happened to this woman who he loved. And his character is largely formed by this tragic love story that happened to him as a very young man. Colonel Brandon. Anyway, that is it. That is the Valentine's Day book tag. And now all that remains for me to do is to tag some people. So I'm going to tag Hannah at JHT Books. I'm going to tag Emily at Emily Kate. And anybody else who feels so moved to do a Valentine's Day book tag for Joe, that is absolutely fine. Why don't you just tell them that I sent you? Okay? I hope everybody's well, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!